Now, I know that in a constrained capital environment such as this, it's quite hard to get cash in. This organisation does some useful things. This organisation also does useful things thanks largely due to the problem gamblers of South Auckland shoveling money into the Class 4 gaming machines. And when the applications come, and I'm looking at one here, it's an application that was for $135,000 as a contribution towards the development of the container village, Second Nature Charitable Trust, fine. But the opportunity cost will be paid by other groups in South Auckland who I think are pretty important too, but who won't get that funding because it's gone to Second Nature Charitable Trust for an operational cost. So I think it's fair and reasonable to balance out the activities with the costs involved. And there are costs involved that require Second Nature Charitable Trust to be innovative with its revenue, and it's trying to obtain more cash, and this transaction will be part of that exercise too. Fine. I don't, I'm not going to vote for A. But we're not called a division, just record my vote against it. But I would request that concurrent to what we're about to do, that we as the lessor seek to ensure that we make good on the third schedule in the deed for which we are party. And that is to ensure that we are working to identify that they are performing in a way to get the centre onto a prudent commercial basis so it is a financially independent community asset, which is the wording in the deed. That's all.
Councillor Walker, Wayne Walker.
Yeah, just got a few points to make. They're not questions. First off, just dealing with F. F, as far as I'm concerned, isn't going to achieve much because it refers to the Reserves Act, and the parameters that we can consider under the Reserves Act are pretty limited. I'm not going to go into them. I don't particularly have an issue with it, but the notion that consultation is going to make any difference around this transaction as far as the Reserves Act is concerned is, I think, somewhat of a misnomer. The particular concern I've got is that this is a shonky deal. As far as flipping is concerned, the flip has already occurred. The flip has occurred because there's already a price being set. I don't know whether we know whether the price is what the price is or not, but we're obviously getting a significantly lower price because of the relative reserve value. So the flip has already occurred. The shonky nature of the deal goes to the fact that I don't know whether we've actually got...
I don't think we can use the word shonky in deals. There's be no legal judgment on this at all. I don't think it's appropriate language at this point in time.
Okay, well,
can you withdraw that, Councillor Walker?
The aspect of
Can you withdraw that, please?
The aspect of the transaction...
Councillor Walker, could you withdraw it?
Sure, I'll withdraw that. The aspect of the transaction that I have grave concern about is that I do not know whether the best price has actually been achieved. And it may well be that in the interests of putting a transaction up that should have been more open and we should have had some oversight, that has not happened. That is my concern. And I will be voting against this as a matter of principle.
Surprised.
Kia ora, Mr. Chairman. I'll certainly support Deputy Mayor Cashmore's statements earlier and the one that stuff that Alf was raising around investment back in community. I'm going to support this. I think, I look back over the last couple of terms when there was a decision around the whitewater rafting and that, and, I just feel sometimes people are just really anti this site. I don't know what it is, and it drives me quite insane. I mean, we supported it happening because I believe there are a number of outcomes for Māori, a number of outcomes for the general community, and I think it's turned out to be a fantastic thing. And it's all part of a whole program. And I think, a bit like Motat talked today about their strategic plan and all that, you can't just stop stuff halfway through and then say it didn't work. So, I can't understand why we got to sit here and pretend we should negotiate the deal by committee, when we haven't probably got any expertise as valuers or negotiators in that sense anyway. When something's already been going down a track which is commercially sensitive, and we've already heard that from the legal advice. And I think, we spent far too much time going back and forwards over, I could have got a better dollar or I could have got another tree planted, better than the guy that negotiated or the woman that negotiated the deal. I think we need to get on with the program here. There's so much going on that needs to happen across the region, and we're regionally focused, and I just want to support what's happening out there, and I think this is another part of that puzzle that needs to be solved and put into place, Mr. Chairman. So, again, I hear frustrations. They sound similar to the frustrations when the whitewater rafting came up. There's a lot of different people around the table, though, I must say, but some of the sentiments seem to be coming through the same. And all I'm saying is that these people have done a lot out in that area, and there's a lot of areas across Auckland that need support. But we need to be getting smart about, stop dragging everything through the mud. The people that are there doing this stuff, they're experts. They're people they're professionals trained to do things and negotiate these things. And all I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is before too long, it must be time to put it, to get it out there, to know exactly what this council's going to do. And there's a number of steps already in what I see in process that are still to occur. So I say stop choking it and let's get on with it. Good, Mr. Chairman.
So Councillor Simpson, you want to speak again, so therefore I'm assuming you want to speak to your amendment.
Yes, I do. Thank
Okay,
you.
so you could speak to the amendment. So we're now discussing the amendment moved by Councillor Newman and seconded by Councillor Simpson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm as you know, compromise person, and I think all that Councillor Newman is trying to do, and I haven't spoken to him other than, through the screen about this, is just actually stating stuff that is already in the deed. So he's not doing something tricky or difficult, and I think his amendment could be a G. And you could do everything all in one hit, because he's asking it to be added. He's not asking to amend A to F. And it's nothing that's not already in the legal documentation, so it shouldn't be a problem, and that's why I've seconded it. So as far as Councillor Walker is concerned and some of his concerns, look, a lot of people have got your concerns, but this is the way F is written is that the decision has yet to be made, hasn't been made, and will come back to this committee. So I'm trying to explain that actually it can go A to G and keep everybody happy. No decision is being made. The deed is being followed as the legal documentation, and it gets brought back to the table. Thank you.
Well, as Chair, I'm going to recommend that you reject the new G, and Councillor Newman has already said he's going to vote against A, so how can he vote for the rest of them, to be quite honest? It kind of would indicate it's a little bit of a witch hunt against the Second Nature Charitable Trust. It's got nothing to do with the disposal report. So anyone else want to discuss the amendment, please? Councillor Darby.
Just the amendment?
Just the amendment? No, just the amendment this time. We'll get the amendment out of the way. It'll either get incorporated as part of the substantive or it won't.
This is G?
No, it's not.
This is G.
Yeah.
Hey, right. We've got an amendment there. You can all know exactly what it is. I'm going to put that amendment. All those in favour?
Aye.
Division?
Division?
Yep.
Okay,
On
you
G
just said it in time.
And division
Right.
on substantive. Yes, yes we can, Mike.
Okay.
Because we're allowed to.
Right, this is division been called.
I won't hold it against you, Penny.
You have to be
Chair
accountable.
Clark,
No.
Deputy Mayor Cashmore,
No.
Councillor Collins,
Against.
Councillor Darby,
No.
Councillor Philippaina,
Against.
Councillor Hills,
No.
Member Wilcox, Councillor Hulse,
No.
Councillor Denise Lee,
Aye.
Councillor Mike Lee,
No.
Councillor Newman,
For transparency.
Councillor Quack is gone. Councillor Sayers,
Yes.
Councillor Simpson,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Member Taipari,
No.
Councillor Wayne Walker,
Aye.
Councillor Watson.
Yes.
So it's lost.
Lost.
No?
It's lost 10 votes to 7.
Okay. Councillor Darby, did you want to speak to?
every time.
Yeah, thank you, and probably,
F.
it's unfortunate, this has become a bit too personal, this whole debate. I think we could have risen above this, members, and I don't think we needed to lower ourselves. I thought Chair Angela Dalton raised some really good points today, and what was different about her presentation is she did not delve into personalities. Because when you start talking about the Second Nature Trust, the way it's been spoken of, it has got personal members. And it's not about the Second Nature Trust, it's about a land transaction, a possible land transaction. So I note I think it's really worth going back to what the local board actually resolved, and I think the local board resolved the A, at least in the Roman 1 and 2 and some others there, and then it raised some concerns. But fundamentally, as I can see, the local board are backing it, they are endorsing it, with some caveats later on. And I also want to express some caveats as well, and I'm hoping that Panuku will be listening to this debate and looking at the resolutions and carrying forward in their likely negotiations those caveats, and they're various. And I don't think they all need to be worded in our resolutions here today. I've got a little bit of a concern that there's a risk of us alienating this land by way of sale in expectation of another agreement being put in place, which then delivers an outcome that we're all expecting, which is a hotel development on this former reserve land. I would hope that Panuku, and I'm sure they will ensure that there are contemporaneous agreements that make sure that there is an agreement sitting right behind our one, if we proceed in that direction, ultimately, that ensures we do get that outcome. Otherwise, we're going down a track here and there are no guarantees. So I'm sure I can leave that to the real estate people to negotiate. But that is one concern of mine. And I just give that trust to Panuku Development Auckland, that they're skilled in that area. But listening to the debate, I probably go back to where I started. I don't think we needed to embark on being so personal about Second Nature and individuals that might be helming that organisation here today.
Good point.
I'm going to put A to F to
Division.
deal with that. My division?
Yes, please.
Can we just
Yep.
scroll down?
Put them up. Have them up on the screen again.
A to F.
So just remember in your papers, if you've got papers, it's A, B, C, D, and E as it was, and we've added a new F.
Well, are we putting them all in one? Because if it's a division, I'm voting against A, but I'm happy with the rest.
Say that.
You can
Okay.
say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can do it all at one as well.
Yeah, let's put it.
Chair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Cashmore,
Yes.
Councillor Collins,
Yes.
Councillor Darby,
Yes.
Councillor Filipaina, 4. Councillor Hills,
Yes.
Member Wilcox,
Yes.
Councillor Hulse,
Aye.
Councillor Denise Lee,
For.
Councillor Mike Lee,
No.
Just
Councillor Newman,
going
No
on
on
the
A,
wrong
yes on the
column.
rest.
Sorry, they're all being on
all
the
being-
wrong column. Yeah.
Councillor Sayers,
For.
Councillor Simpson,
For.
Councillor Stewart,
No.
Member Taipari,
For.
Councillor Wayne Walker,
No.
Councillor Watson.
Abstain.
Yeah, I'll put him down as a yes.
If you abstain, it's probably a good
Yes, and
idea.
I'll note that A, yes.
Can I change
Councillor
my vote?
Newman, I'm putting you down as a yes, but I'm noting at the bottom that you wish your vote against A to be recorded. Is that correct?
Fine.
Yes?
Yep.
Thank you. Right, we're now going to the next 3, which I'm sorry, remind me, what are we up to? E, F, G,
I can remind
H,
you.
I. Councillor Sayers, you were going to speak to, you're first off the rank.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr Chair. And I do want to thank you for seconding this motion. It's the opposite of what was in our report in terms of, wanting to retain this car parking, all-day car parking in Warkworth. I also think it's probably appropriate to acknowledge the local board, the Rodney local board, and their chair, who's still here, been here all day waiting for this item, and also the public of Warkworth who've got in and really, I'm sure you've got a few emails to clear in your inbox about how important this is to the community. They're still coming. That's good. Right, look, now, we've got one more step to go, and that's to vote in favour of this, and I hope you do, councillors and Māori statutory board members. I'm just going to summarise very quickly the key points and why you should vote in favour for this. It's a key piece of infrastructure for Warkworth. It's a key Rodney local board advocacy item, and that's been supported by public submissions. The Rodney local board does not endorse the sale of it, which reflects the community voice. It is required for the township, for staff, for employees, for all-day parking within Warkworth. By 7:30, 8:30 in the morning, it's full. And you'll see that by the photograph on page 118 anyway. No car parks left. It's required for commuters. We've heard, we've got the Mahu City Express bus with private enterprise that's running through town. We also have an interregional bus that stops there, and people need to park there to catch that bus into town and other places. We need to ensure that Warkworth remains economically viable too, Mr Chair. We all know that the motorway extension's being completed in 2021, which is a bypass around Warkworth, and we need that all-day parking within Warkworth to attract shoppers and keep it economically viable. So, look, lastly, I'll just ask you to reflect on the points that the local board have made, and there was money set aside to develop a third level on that car park under the Rodney District Council, and that was lost in the amalgamation, and it just doesn't seem fair that now all those all-day car parking could be lost. And the other thing that's changed too, that was also mentioned, was the growth in Warkworth. We heard there are 1,300 current consents being processed at the moment. If you take 2 cars per household there, we've got 2,600 more cars floating around Warkworth. I'm sure some of them will want that parking as well. And also, of course, as you'll be very aware, Mr Chair, the land to the north of Warkworth has been zoned as live under the unitary plan process. So that growth is coming, and it's also occurring in Snells Beach, Alges Bay. There's building going on in Matakana. It's happening all over the place. And the Warkworth Town Hall, in the report it talked about originally that car park was bought to support a community centre. That community centre by the waterfront didn't go ahead, but what did go ahead was the Warkworth Hall. And that's been completed and opened just a few weeks ago. And it needs parking. It hasn't got parking. It's within walking distance of this car park, and it's desperately needed. And also Auckland Transport are going to be trialling, hopefully, mid-2018, an Auckland Transport supplied bus service from Warkworth down to Silverdale. And at the moment there's no park and ride or other facilities identified for parking, and people will need all-day parking. So there's more than a small need for this to retain this car park. It's essential. It's needed now, not for the future. So I'm just asking you to support keeping this all-day parking, and I hope councillors and independent statutory board members that you'll vote for the affirmative on this motion. So thank you.
So just so we're aware, we're all aware here, and Councillor Sayers is, because he by and large wrote most of G, that this is delaying the decision. further investigation by Auckland Transport. So it is important that that is understood by the local board and the public in Warkworth, and as I say, this was put up by Councillor Say, so it's delaying the decision. And the reason why Panuku is not involved in this stage is because it's an Auckland Transport strategy issue, so it's to Auckland Transport giving 3 months, and then there'll be another report coming back. And there's a number of other options which we did discuss here, which again, the local board will be involved as to are there situations where we can sell and then put a covenant on a floor of parking or whatever. So there's several options there. So this is a good compromise, Councillor Sayers, and I'm impressed that you put it up, and I'm impressed that this is not, we've got to hold on this forever and a day because, you know, whatever, but it may be held on to, but it is to delay it for further investigation. I think that's a really good compromise. Councillor Hills.
And just, look, I think that they are very good points to make, Mr Chair, that the delays to come forward with the options, which we don't have on the table at the moment. It may be retention, it may be something else, but we need to know those. And it's a very important part of that, which you touched on, which I'd just like to, reinforce, is that the local board and the community need to be involved in this process. There's a feeling that they have not been consulted around this, and there's some angst around there, so I think that's a very important part of that process. I hope that's reflected in the report.
Mr Chair, if I could just comment, something of an issue that we do have with exploring options is we are unable to go out and test the market to explore what potential options the market would deliver on the site and options for covenanting the site, etc., if we don't have approval from this committee to dispose of the site. And we have explained this to the Rodney Local Board when we have consulted with them. We do appreciate their frustration with this process. We are also very keen to see a car parking element be retained at the site, but we cannot enter into negotiations with the commercial sector by way of public consultation or by way of public forum. So just noting that point.
I think that's understood by anyone. It could be that Auckland Transport come back with a solution that therefore doesn't negate any further negotiations, and then you come back with a recommendation to sell the land because we've got another alternative. But it could be that one of the alternatives then are to sell it and then enter into negotiations for that site to have be covenanted. Councillor Hills, and then Councillor Simpson, Councillor Walker.
Yes, through you, Chair. I understand all sides of this, and I understand the difficulties. It's definitely different to town centres down here close to the city. But I am a little concerned. We've obviously had tons of, a lot of emails come through, many of them from business owners, law firms, workers, things like that, saying, I get there at 8 to park all day. I don't know, I've tried to look through the policy, I just don't know if it's council's business to provide businesses all-day parking. Is it ratepayers that should be funding all-day parking for businesses? So I understand you've got issues with public transport and things like that. There is a lot of parking around the centre, but obviously that's turnover parking, and that's the kind of parking that Auckland Transport usually incentivises, so you get the turnover and economic development, things like that. And of course, yes, we lack public transport for the workers and things, but I'm concerned that especially if there's no future, or if there's not a plan to charge or different things, then I'm concerned what this sets up long term if we're investigating, just because, in our town centres, I know they're different because they have public transport components, but we do not supply all day free car parking for businesses. Like, they're consented to have a certain number of car parks, things like that. So that's just, I'm obviously voting for this, but my concern is the wording that says we must find all day parking, and what that means. Is it free? There's no such thing as free parking really. In the end, it's expensive land and things like that. The other thing is around the 500,000 and what that means. It says directs Auckland Council. Well, we are Auckland Council, but I don't know what that means to resolve the funding urgently. So that's just another thing. But I just have a worry when a lot of the emails I've been getting is from business owners saying we park there all day. So there's obviously not really for people to be using, I don't know, I don't know, it's a policy thing, and it might be fine, but I don't know, it's just an odd thing. That's all, thank you.
Funding will be resolved in one form or another. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr Chair. My question is around the language used in H and the understanding thereof. It says direct Auckland Council and the Rodney Local Board. Rodney Local Board is part of Auckland Council, so who are you directing? Would you please go to the resolution? H. Directs Auckland Council and the Rodney Local Board. So who are you directing?
And what does that mean?
Okay.
Through the chair, I think the intention of H is it's Auckland Council staff to resolve with the Rodney Local Board.
Okay, so that should
Because
say
the fact is
staff.
that there are some works that need to be undertaken
I get
on
that.
this.
Get that, that's fine. Add staff. Thank you.
Sure, more than happy that Panuku aren't in a position to exercise options that go to sale at this point. That can wait. Just have a couple of issues, and they go to... Just trying to see it there. It's obviously G, where it says investigates alternative all-day parking options for Warkworth. I'd be comfortable to take out the all-day and just leave it at parking, because I think we need to apply a lateral approach here. And the other issue that I have is just around the 3-month time frame. Obviously, we haven't heard from Auckland Transport. I don't know where they're at over this, whether they've done any significant amount of work, much around parking in Warkworth at all, and public transport. And I don't know whether you're in a position to answer that, Greg. But 3 months may be a little bit of a tight time frame here.
Through the chair, I just note in paragraph 4 of on page 115 of your report, we've noted that AT have investigated parking provision for Warkworth and indicated to us that the expansion of the town centre car park is not justified based on parking occupancy figures for the car park and the township. And I just note as well, this property doesn't actually sit with Auckland Transport, nor has it following the creation of Auckland Council. It sits with Auckland Council, and AT have managed the car parking aspect.
I see that. For myself, I'm sometimes a little bit cynical about some of the statements that Auckland Transport make around various issues, and I'd suggest this is one of them. If there were some work around parking in Warkworth, and I'd seen it, and Mr Sayers had seen it, and the local board had seen it, that'd be great. But I think in the absence of that, I've got a real question mark over the 3 months.
Do you want me to respond to the councillor?
I suppose I'm taking it you're happy because you wrote the resolution. I suppose I'm taking it you're happy because you by and large wrote the resolution.
Oh yes. I'm just that a question was directed at me, and I'm happy to answer it, Mr Chair.
Okay.
I would respectively probably reject the idea of it not looking at all-day parking. All-day parking is essential for their rather than just the 60 to 90 minute parking, so we do need that all-day parking.
That's a good
the Auckland Transport, yes, they have carried out a survey, which is mentioned in the report, was correctly pointed out by the officer. However, that's stale. It was done a while ago. It just looked at the 60 to 90 minute parking. It didn't look at all-day parking, but it's also stale because since that survey, we've had the unitary plan liven up areas around Warkworth that we didn't know about beforehand. And in terms of the 3 months, councillor, that's there to get this resolved and to get an answer and with urgency.
Last speaker on these resolutions, Councillor Darby.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting. A few members, Councillor Hills and Councillor Walker, have homed in on how prescriptive the wording is on G in terms of all-day parking options, because, and I have concern about that too, because by supporting that, you are asking AT to go and look at a narrow area. They're not being asked to look at other parking options other than all-day parking options. So I actually don't think that's well drafted. I actually think it just should be to investigate parking options for Workworths and then go the comma and report to the Finance Committee. In terms of greater numbers, lesser numbers, all of that, it's irrelevant. You are actually constraining Auckland Transport. You are not enabling them at all.
Good point.